Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Parks and Recreation and Leisure Activities Committee, August the 31st, year 2023, 12 o'clock, Council Chambers, City Hall. Order of business. Call to order. Declarations of conflict of interest. No. Approval of agenda. Adoption of minutes. Business arising from minutes.
Mr. Chair, just under business arising. I'm just looking at the agenda, and I know I spoke at the last meeting about following up with some of the new Canadian user groups, i.e. the Filipinos, our Indian friends from India on facilities. And I did see an email from Joy Fajardo. She's with the Philippines Association. She'd like to come in and speak to this, to the standing committee, so hopefully we can get her on the agenda. And the other issue, Mr. Chair, is the Rugby Association. I know they've been trying to, again, circle back to us and speak about their issues, so just to keep those in mind.
I know we got an email from Joy. I think you got that email, Frank. Christopher, you got it. And then regarding the Rugby Association, do you know if they've approached the department?
They have,
When?
back in early August.
Early August? Frank?
So Chair Twill and Your Worship, so we're in the process right now of arranging meetings with those groups from the department staff. If it's deemed necessary that a presentation has to be made to council, we'll bring that forward. But it looks like, looking at a couple of requests, they're very operational focused, so we'll be meeting with those groups. And with regards to the rugby one, it is on my list to get back to, and I'll be reaching out to the individual that sent that email.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, just on the new Canadians, the Association of Filipinos, they were looking more at trying to collaborate with public schools branch because of the facilities they have. So I think this would be more of a collaboration instead of just the city of Charlottetown. So please keep that in mind, Mr. Through the chair to the manager. Is that okay?
Basically what we'll do is we'll wait till they meet with the manager, the management and the department, and then we'll receive a synopsis from the department.
Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you.
Is that okay, Frank? Today, in our reports, the first item up for business is representation from the Pickleball Association. I want to welcome you folks here today. We hope your presentation is exciting, as dynamic as what the sport is all about, and how it's reached its popularity, not just here in this community, but I guess all over the world. So, without further ado, maybe you can take the time to introduce the members of your association, and then from there you can go right into your presentation. We'll probably go presentation, but 5-10 minutes. Then we'll open up the floor for questions.
Okay. All right.
Meeting's yours.
Thank you so much. My name is Lisa Murphy, and it is such an honor to be here and with some representatives from our club. I just wanted to say we sent our presentation ahead of time, so we won't be reading from it today, but we will be just doing some highlights, and like you say, allow time for questions and answers and discussion. So just to start off, here is Don Smith, and he'll be speaking to the first couple of items. And then we have Gordon Harper here, and he's going to be speaking to the third item that we have put in our presentation. Hopefully that's okay for you, the order of things that we've decided. Then we're going to be, Parker behind here is going to be speaking. And then myself, I'll be wrapping up. So we have a guest here today. This is the president of PEI Pickleball, or PEI, or Pickleball PEI, and so this is Doris Dunphy here. So we're honored that she's here. Thank you. So I'll just let Don start, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Item number one is the purpose of this meeting. We are here to provide a briefing on the growing sport of pickleball and to propose ways of how the municipality might best respond to the surging demand for pickleball programming. We ask today for the assistance of the city in supporting pickleball for its numerous residents by helping to secure safe and accessible indoor and outdoor venues. In particular, seasonal access to the tennis courts at Victoria Park. Now, by way of introduction, pickleball has been around for almost 40 years, often described as having the elements of tennis, badminton, and table tennis. It can be played as singles or doubles. All you need to play is a ball, a paddle, and a pair of sneakers. It's a very economical sport in comparison to some sports like hockey. 4 pickleball courts can fit on any tennis court. So for every 2 tennis players on a court, you can fit 16 pickleball players. So you get much more bang for your dollar, which is important. And it also increases the utilization of resources in various cities. The sport of pickleball has taken PEI by storm. The national body, Pickleball Canada, supports between 20 and 22. The number of pickleball players in Canada has tripled. There are many health and well-being benefits of pickleball. It's an active sport for people with varying physical abilities. It's a great cardio workout, so it's good for the heart and reduces stress. It helps keep people active and healthier, keeping them out of critical health care system, which is under pressure, as we all are aware. It is played on courts similar to tennis, volleyball, and badminton courts, so the courts can be easily shared. And again, that comes back to more bang for your buck. It's a social sport bringing together many players at a time. So it's a combination of physical activity and social environment. Basically, island communities are on the search for venue options for all their residents, and pickleball enthusiasts are playing wherever they can. It's a growing all across PEI. There's established clubs in pickleball for Stratford, Summerside, basically all over. So that basically is a brief overview. I don't know if anybody here plays pickleball, but I would certainly encourage them to get out and enjoy the sport whenever the opportunity presents itself. So I will move it on now to our next item 3.
Thanks, Don. Good afternoon, Your Worship, Chair and members. I'm Gordon Harper, and I'm one of the new members of the Charlottetown Pickleball Club, which resulted from a meeting of 3 or 4 motivated members back in June, just 2 months ago. And already there are 175 players signed up. And so the club is going to be formalized within the next month. But meanwhile, we've got reflecting the upsurge, which the chair had mentioned, in interest worldwide, across the country, and certainly on the island here. The club's formed. They're a very motivated group. It's just a surge of interest that we have. And 38% of pickleball PEI members, which Doris represents, are from Charlottetown. So the sport is growing. There's an almost insatiable demand for facilities. It's where we can have instruction, organized play, competitions, and we expect many more residents of the city to be lining up to join the club. Thank you.
So, just a quick comment on Gordon's notes. Yeah, we have 175 people that have signed up, and they're paying a membership, and we need to buy nets and balls. It's a pretty inexpensive sport, but there are some overhead related to it, and for every place that we play, we'll people will pay user fees, and then we have to pay rent. For example, we're doing that with UPI right now. So this number, though, I have to say, we have not advertised at all, and we got this crazy response of 175 people in 7 weeks. And, it's been exciting, and, we are thrilled, but we know that this is just the beginning. And that's why we're so happy to meet with you now as we're organizing, so that we could, share with you this great response, and then hopefully encourage you to help us provide pickleball to our capital city. So this whole section on enhancing pickleball programming, I'm not going to read it all out. It's just that I just want to thank you very much for what you've done so far. It's because of your program for seniors that I began to play pickleball, and we know that program was very popular. Very popular. But there was a waiting list, and so we know that there is a demand. And so we wanted to, first of all, thank you for that. We know that there's movement happening, there's changes, there's decisions being made, and we would like to be included in that in a way that we can help, and that because we think we can, because we've got a lot of talented people here and in our membership. So basically, it was to thank you for that. It's to say we know there are changes happening with Rest Royalty building now with the building of Simmons. We missed an opportunity to get our foot in there, like for an outdoor court or some sort of a space. But now we're here wondering, like everybody's wondering, what are you doing with the Simmons rink? Is there a possibility there? We've been going around a lot of the venues that we know about, like your Eastlink Center, and now we'll be approaching schools. Like we're on a drive. We're on a drive to find spots to play, safe, accessible spots. And if it's indoor, that would be wonderful, especially with the coming season. And outdoor, safe, accessible spots that are lighted, we would like to put a word in for that. It was just talking about, it's just talking about opportunities for visitors to our city. And we know that you know all about that. So for example, we know like in Atlantic, there's an Atlantic tournament that gets upwards to 350 to 400 people registered that are traveling to either Nova Scotia or is it New Brunswick to attend those. And we want to have that here. So in order to do that, we need to have 4 to 6 courts, and so we think we can help with that as well. I hope I'm not missing. Anything, and I'm sure there'll be some questions that come up. Let me check to make sure. Oh, yeah, so I said about the West Royalty Community Center, but maybe you've got other spots? I don't know. Anyway, we can talk about that. So I guess we're on to the next section, which is Parker. Parker's one of our young players, as you can see. He's 19, just turned 20 last month, I think. So it's a sport of all ages, and hopefully some of those pictures will show that. Go ahead, Parker. Oops.
Hi, everyone. My name is Parker Fisher. As Lisa said, I'm 20, proof that pickleball isn't just for old people. So what I'm... basically, my job right now is to just reassure you guys that we don't expect you to do everything on your own. We want to help. We want to help you help us. That's our goal. So we're fine with conducting venue search, helping with that. Co-hosting tournaments, like Lisa said, we're open to that as well. Assist with all the logistics that come along with all this organization. And just basically everything that you guys are helping us, we want to help as well.
Okay, so very quickly, sorry. The last, and we consider very important section is we are making a pitch to ask you if we could possibly share the current tennis courts and facility at the Victoria Park, and we know this is huge, and we hope that you will consider it. We learned from Chris at our last meeting, how it all worked, and we know that there are 8 courts, and we are asking if we could possibly use the back 3, and we know like pickleball is very, you can pack up, the nets are portable, and so we can sort of be gone in a flash if tennis. If you need the courts for tennis, but we just would like to share that, like pickleball it was around before tennis, before all those buildings and courts were built, but it's here now, like with a huge thirst for venues, and we would like to share that space, and I'm sure there'll be questions about that. So let's see if I missed anything. I think that's basically the gist of it, yeah, I mean, obviously our dream would be to have a big center that would represent all the racket sports, but that's not our job today. So thank you for letting us give highlights. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you for everyone that participated in your presentation. I think I'll start off. I mean, obviously, there's no denying the fact that this sport is really taken off, and there's a lot of participants, and it's not just for the older demographics, as the young gentleman pointed out. It's for all demographics. When you look at other jurisdictions, when it comes to facilities and venues, are they public facilities, or are any of them private? That's something that I'm not aware of, and I wanted to ask that question.
That would be a split, and I can't say what percentage of split it would be. In some cases, it's a joint situation. Like I see even in Summerside, they helped raise money to get their 6 courts going. They have wonderful outdoor courts in Summerside. And they raised money, and with the help of the city and grants, they've got beautiful courts. And if I'm not incorrect, I believe it was $50,000 it cost to do, and that was some part of interested players and the city council and grants that got that going. And obviously, you have some very interested people here and across the country. I've heard various situations. In some cases, they're private, and in other cases, they are publicly provided, and in some cases, it's a joint venture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just click that one off.
Yeah, okay. But we're talking a sport that you want to participate in 365 days of the year. It's not just a seasonal sport, it's all around. That's why I asked the question, public versus private. I'm trying to get a sense of these facilities. For example, if I was to go to Halifax and wanted to play pickleball, would I be playing in a public facility, or would I be playing in a private facility? Just try to get a sense.
Okay, just yesterday I found out that there is one private facility that has just opened up in Halifax, or just outside of Halifax. Like everyone, each municipality, like every province and municipalities there, each one is different. So like Summerside's situation is different than Stratford, and yet both are supporting pickleball in different ways. Some have very strong clubs, and it looks like we are going to be a contender there. So it's whatever you negotiate with your municipalities. And it's kind of, at such early stages, we can define, or we want to help define what that looks like, because the goal is to have pickleball accessible for our residents. And that's.
You mentioned the East Link Center, and that intrigued me. I think during the Canada Games, I believe squash was played at in the arena part of the facility. Was there any thoughts to pursuing the management at the East Link Center, primarily, let's say, even for the winter months? to play, and maybe we could partner with your association to ensuring, that you mentioned, 6 courts, having the opportunity to play there, and then, of course, you mentioned the tennis courts down in Victoria Park. So I'm thinking from a seasonal perspective, if there's a possibility, of course, Frank would have to, examine that possibility down in Victoria Park. But in the interim, if we could partner with the East Link Center to have courts set up at the arena, and then, of course, there would be special events where you might have to take it down temporarily and put back up. Just wondering if you're all open to those options.
We actually met with the management at the East Link Center, was it 2 days ago, Gordon? 2 days ago, yeah. They hosted us, or hosted pickleball during COVID, and there was 50 people who turned up for that. But we talked to them, and they looked at their schedule before we met, and it's pretty packed. And they were very hesitant about sharing the space because we were looking for dedicated times, just for structure. So they kind of discouraged that. They just said it wasn't really an option right now because, because they have a big demand. And we would have to be booted out quite a bit, according to them. And they were very helpful and made other suggestions, and which we took back with us. And so we were. That's kind of all we got from them, basically.
Floor is open. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
During COVID, players got together. You should make sure you're okay, sorry. Okay, during COVID, pickleball players used East Link, and there was probably 8, 10 courts, and it was a wonderful opportunity to be able to play during COVID. Pickleball players, it was one of those sports that you kept far enough away on, so it is a great option to mention. But the surface is very hard on the floor if you play on it for long periods of time. It's another option to consider how hard the surface is.
You mean this cement floor?
Yes.
Yeah, there's many variables to take into consideration. Mr. Matark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone, for your presentation. I certainly never held a pickleball paddle before in a ball, so it's great to see that this is actually the equipment that's used. Just in line with what Chair Tweel has been mentioning, I think your biggest challenge here, obviously, is venue. Whether those are an established venue or the ability to be remote at various locations. So my question that I have is, and not knowing pickleball in the sense of court structure, I just heard right there that obviously cement structure is workable but not ideal. Is there one ideal playing surfaces? And 2, have you explored avenues like schools? Because I did hear in the presentation that you could use tennis courts, volleyball courts, badminton courts. So I assume those were gymnasium-style areas. Because, when schools close at 3:30 in the afternoon, they're available all evening. And I'm sure if you partner with communities, I assume you've already explored those options. You're nodding your head. So maybe if you could just elaborate a little bit more on the playing surfaces and why some locations work better than others in helping us determine, like Councillor Tweel had a great idea about the Civic Center. But now you're saying, well, although it's great, it's not overly ideal in some cases, so.
We were really excited to go to the Civic Center, and but the flooring is it's basically concrete with a kind of a strange uneven surface. Pickleball, it's an evolving thing. It's now become a professional sport. I mean, it's getting lots of money in the States. It's a big deal, and so because of that, we're getting flooring being developed and built. So there's such things as click flooring. There's like a pad, a rollout pad that you can use, and each court is the size of like a badminton court, and with slight alterations at the court line. We call it a kitchen line. So to that point, we've been using whatever we can get, actually. UPEI has a wooden floor, like a gymnasium floor, and so we use that, and it's nice and smooth. Some schools are older, right? And so it's a little uneven, and they may not be suitable for us. So we have a venue search committee now that is exploring all the schools as of this week, because there wasn't any staff to do it beforehand. Because that's where pickleball had to play in the past 8 years, is school gymnasiums, most of whom are very welcoming to us, but their schedules are tight. And we have to go in when there's a custodian there. Excuse me. So there's a few variables that we work out, but yeah, we have we have some schools to explore, and we will. So did I answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you. No, I know, obviously, there are some nuances that come with the sport, and ideally, a venue that would, be conducive to the sport in all areas of the flooring, lighting, lines on the floor. I assume that it's played in a court style with lines and such. So, yeah, I wish you all the best in your venue search, and hopefully you're able to find, the winter months are coming, so I'm sure you're looking to move inside. I know you're asking here today for a shared usage of Victoria Park tennis courts, but, we're coming into the fall season, and soon enough, those courts will likely be closed, and into the future. So for the winter months, I wish you all the best in finding locations that can continue the sport. So thank you again for your presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chair? Lisa, I think I saw Mr. Smith and Mr. Harding at the 55-plus games at Colonel Gray. And have you participated or watched a pickleball game? It's a very physically intense sport. I know Alan Hughes and Dave Smiley McLeod are participants, and they enjoy it thoroughly, especially when you get into that 50-plus years. So, look, I've seen it, and it's a great sport. But as for the Eastlink Centre during the Canada Games, they did bring in squash courts, but the squash courts were fitted to work over the floor. The problem with the Eastlink floor in the Trade Centre, it's sloped. It's sloped for a reason, because of water issues, and if they have cattle or any livestock shows, the water has to go somewhere. So that flooring is an issue. And the report, is it Mr. Smith? Yes. We didn't get a copy of the report. I'd like to get a copy of their report. I went through my email. Did that report come out to us, Mr. Quinn?
Your worship, it was actually left with me. Christopher was off, and I assumed
Yeah.
there. So
Could
anyway,
you get
we will
that
get a
report
copy, and
to
we'll make
us?
sure we have the most up-to-date one, and we'll send it off to all the committee members. And
I-
I apologize for that.
Yeah, I'd like to get that report, because I think that's what we'll have to use as a post-meeting for today. And then, of course, you have, Bob Goller. Bob is involved with the tennis. He's also tried to put together this proposal for a Charlottetown Racket Club, which would be tennis, pickleball, squash. But he's looking at something that's similar to what's in Bedford, Nova Scotia. The Atlantic Tennis Centre, which is a $14 million facility. That's the long goal, right? You're looking at the short goal and the medium goal. And when we look at going to gyms, whether they're elementary school gyms or junior high or senior high, well, we know that the Filipinos who play basketball want access to those gyms too. And then there's other extracurricular sports that are in schools that are using those gyms. So they're maxed out, really. And if we can get a fit in there, great. But I think your group is asking, what can we do? What can Charlottetown do? Like Summerside, they have 6 courts, correct? That are owned and operated by Summerside. Stratford, they have how many courts? 4. Owned, operated, maintained by the municipality, correct? No private. They're all, okay. So you're coming to Charlottetown, and this, Mr. Chair, this is not the first time we've heard from the pickleball advocacy group. They've been asking for this for the last, could I say, 3, 5, 7 years? Like it's been an ask or that's been on the table for some time. So, like, as a municipality, as the capital, we have to do something. Like, you know, we have outdoor venues. We have the Co-op Diamond Tennis Court, which is off the Co-op Diamond. There's a tennis court there. We have the J. Frank McCauley Tennis Court. Again, tennis courts can be used for pickleball, correct? So we have two of them. Mr. Chair, we have one already up and operating multi-sport venue out in Hillsborough Park. The Mulberry Park is getting a new one. And did you notice the new one out in Winslow that's being built? Third one. We'll have 3. So for outdoors, we have 5 facilities that we can accommodate. And that's not even going to the Victoria Park Tennis Club. And I think that is going to be a difficult negotiation because as the current chair, or the current manager of Parks and Recreation and a former manager of Parks and Recreation, Sue Fraser, knows, that's sacred ground out there for tennis, so I don't know how we get around that. But we do have venues, especially outdoor venues. We do have the West Royalty Community Centre. We do have, that's really all we have, because if you look at Hillsborough Park and you look at the Malcolm Dira, they would not be appropriate spaces for pickleball, I think probably for chess and checkers and cards, but that's about it. So, Mr. Chair, Eastlink to me is not a viable solution because of the physics, not of the physics, but the construction of that Eastlink Center. And we have to find a solution here, like, especially in the outdoor. We can definitely look on the outdoor with the 5 venues that I mentioned that we can look at for next. And Frank, did we look through the chair to Mr., is it all right, Mr. Chair, on Hillsborough Park, did we put courts down there for pickleball?
So, Your Worship, right now, Christopher has had his initial meetings with the group here, and then he came back to myself. We have been actually going through all of our facilities we have that could potentially accommodate pickleball. We did attempt, we put courts out at the West Royalty new facility, so there is courts there, but you have to bring your nets. There is some concern with, because of the sides aren't closed in, so when you hit the ball, it goes outside and it takes up time to get around. So we've been looking at some other facilities, and we're going to be going back and meeting with the group to discuss those options. The outdoor one is one that we think is doable, and doable in a shorter period of time. Like you said, the indoor one, there's a lot of challenges with regards to availability of facilities. But we're going to be looking at that, and the fact that they're open to work with us, and they're bringing lots of information to the table and bringing ideas and suggestions. I think it will help us to move this along, but it will take time, especially for the indoor facility. Yeah. But outdoor one is, I think we can have something in place in the near future. Maybe not this season.
If I could, this is the second question, Mr. Chair. It's just, look, we have to address at least some part of this equation. There's an outdoor-indoor issue here, a question here. The outdoor, I think we can. I forgot about the West Royalty Community Centre, the multi-sport venue. So we have now 6. When we get everything done, Mulberry, Winslow, Hillsborough Park, West Royalty, Co-op Diamond Tennis Court, and the J. Frank McCauley Park Tennis Court. So there's 6 venues, outdoor venues. It's the biggest challenge, Lisa, will be indoor.
Thank you. Yeah. The thing that we need for outdoor is it can't be in a place where there's housing. Because across the country, we were learning that the noise level that pickleball makes, the ball, just the basic noise, is not good for neighborhoods. So that's why Victoria Park is ideal, okay? And Hillsborough Park might not be ideal because there's residents all around there. I don't know specifics of all those other places, but one thing we do know we need is water, we need bathrooms, we need wind screens. And just like tennis has, that's not a sort of a new concept. So those are sort of what our needs going forward, and we can be more, we can put that better in writing, because this is just our second sort of meeting about that. The thing about, West Royalty, we would very much like to get in there if we could for some more hours. I know that you've made some changing in your programming with the seniors program, so we would need to talk about that. The other thing I want to share with you is like the Victoria Park, I know, as you say, is sacred ground, and we weren't really going to get into, choose us over them. But I do want to say that it is a tax, I'm a taxpayer, and I'm involved in a sport that's growing, and we know from statistics that tennis is not growing as much as pickleball is. And pickleball wasn't around when those facilities were created. And we just want a little piece of it. Like, for example, I know that Charlottetown does the booking for tennis, so you probably have the numbers in front of you to say, is this a really utilized facility? And if not, can it be shared? And we're a really agreeable bunch. But it's a great spot. It has the washroom. It has the buildings. It's something that we as taxpayers would like to share. And we haven't talked to Tennis PEI yet. It wasn't appropriate for us to do that. But, we may. Like, if we talk about, you say, the vision down the road, we want to be part of that.
Thank you, Lisa. Frank?
Yeah, so I'll just want to provide a comment. So we're going to try not to pin one group against another kind of thing.
that's right.
So we're going to try to identify facilities that are underutilized first, and then go from there and meet with you folks and come up with a suitable solution. So there is options. Christopher and I had, after your folks' meeting, we had a chat and we discussed other potential options. So there is options out there, and we do realize, you need access to washroom, windscreens, and whatnot. I went up and seen the Summerside facility and was up there, and it is a great little facility. It is in a neighborhood, but it's not necessarily right next to houses, so we realize that as well. So I think there is some options out there, and now that we've, this initial meeting has occurred, I think we can move things forward. So we just don't.
Well, I want to thank, we have another point to make. We do have an agenda.
Yes.
I do sincerely want to thank each and every one of you for coming in here today. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh.
I do want to thank each and every one of you for coming in here today. We certainly, we're pretty excited about the sport as well. And who knows, maybe we'll even participate as we move along. With the city, the growth and development of this city, from a traditional sense and where we hope to be in years to come, there's many challenges, and when you talk about the ideal facilities, these facilities cost millions and millions of dollars. And right now, we're trying to make do with what we have, and we're going to be working on strategic plans. Our management here is definitely very cognizant of what you're saying. We're very cognizant of what you're saying, and hopefully we can start to formulate some partnerships. You mentioned the tennis courts. Tennis PEI, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the Charlottetown Club, Frank, that participated in the fundraiser for that facility, the club itself. And those are things that I think we can pursue. Those precedents have already been set, and a lot of the different sporting organizations do a lot of fundraising, but some of them facilities that you talked to, whether it be in like you mentioned, was it Bedford, Nova Scotia, or even Bears Lake? A lot of these facilities, there are millions and millions of dollars. Somewhere along the line, we're going to have to, participate in the construction of those facilities. So, without further ado, I want to thank you for coming here today. I know our management's going to be meeting with you, and we're going to work on goals here for the short term and for the long term. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Okay, let's move on to item B, Rotary Club of Charlottetown request to install a Rotary Peace Pole in Confederation Landing. Frank?
Thank you, Chair Twill. You will see the report there. I'll just provide a high-flying review of it, So the Rotary Club of Charlottetown has requested to install a peace pole at Confederation Landing Park. I received this request from the past president back on August 2nd. We collected a bit additional information and then reviewed, is this something that could be installed in the park? And staff are recommending that it can be installed. We feel that it's an acceptable installation in a park. And the club's passion, the Rotary Club's passion for this, is driven by the Rotary International mandate to bring peace. The message on the pole will state, "May peace prevail on earth." It will be in 3 languages, English, French, and Mi'kmaq, and on 3 sides. And the 4th side will include logos, International City of Peace, Veterans Peace, a rainbow, Braille, and Rotary/International. The peace pole is 8 feet high. It's 4x4 in diameter. Department staff are in consultation with the actual Rotary Club right now to identify a suitable location to install this, and then the department will be installing the actual peace pole if the committee and council agrees.
Great, thank you. Everybody okay? Moved? Second?
And this will be unveiled on September 21st, is what their time frame is.
Great, thank you, Frank. Verbal update on Parks and Recreation capital projects.
All right, so I just wanted to provide a high-flying review of all the projects. There is a lot on our list, as you're quite aware, and if I don't touch on a few, that means they're either nothing's been done yet or they're in the works. Just with regards to Cody Banks repairs, there's been renovations done to the Maplewood Room entrance and stairs, and the public washrooms, the men's and women's washrooms downstairs, so those have been completed. There is still some other work to be done there, that is once the plant starts up. With regards to playground equipment and park development, the installs are underway for the 2022 equipment that we didn't receive until early this year. The 2023 equipment will be going out in RFP this fall. There's not as many items to order. And there also will be some park development work taking place at Evergreen Park. We're having to do some major fill and grading work out there. So that is underway, and we'll go as long as weather permits, and hopefully we'll get a majority of that done. Victoria Park planned the development, the resurface of the pathway between Brighton Road of the parking lot and the Park Drive. That's to be determined whether we're going to proceed with that. There was a lot of heavy equipment in there with regards to Fiona cleanup, so we didn't want to do work and then have a potential damage, so we'll be working on that. Confederation Landing, the boardwalk upgrades, it has been replaced down at the bottom, so drop down and have a look at it. It looks amazing. I was down there yesterday. The sport field development, we have ordered 3 bleachers, which we've received, and the remaining sport field upgrades will be taking place this fall, the capital upgrades. The fields got so busy, and the weather this summer has not been the best. We have the Winslow irrigation system on that second field, I think it is completed, so that's been operational. Haven't needed as much this year because of all the rain we've been having. The J. Frank McCauley pathway restoration, we didn't receive money from the AT fund, from the province's AT fund, but we are looking to proceed with phase 1 with the funding that we have allocated from the city. There's a section of the pathway in particular from Spring Lane to the parking lot that's in really bad shape. We patched it, but it's really failing bad. So we're going out to tender. We designed the whole thing. We're going out to tender on that portion, and if funds allow us, we'll do that work. Then next year, if we'll make application again, but if we don't, it might be that we proceed with the other section. But it is not in as bad a shape, and we'll be able to repair it, and it's holding up okay. With regards to the Hermitage Creek, the dock, we have received the dock, and we're just doing some site work right now, and it'll be completed shortly, and it'll be installed by the end of September, if not earlier. The Andrews Pond trail development, we've done the silt trap clean out. Improvements have been made to the fishway and the trails in that area. There was a fair bit of damage happened during hurricane that needed repairs. Acadian Drive trail restoration, it's an ongoing project with Cycling PEI, and that is proceeding. Victoria Park shoreline protection, we're working on the design and tender document. It's being reviewed right now, and it'll be sent out by mid-September, with the work anticipated to start in November, December, later in the season, and probably into January as well. Simmons replacement, all the tenders have been awarded, work's underway, and it's on schedule, and anticipated to be opened October of 2024. And we're really pushing towards that. If we can get it completed earlier, of course, we will do that. And as you can see, there's been a lot of work over there with regards to the parking lot, and that work is pretty well completed and will be available for the school. That was our objective on that, getting that done early. The Peaks Wharf washrooms, that work's been completed in partnership with CADC and the owner of those washrooms. East Roley Lagoon Park Development, the design's been completed, and we're hoping to start some of the work this fall. It's just been, it's a part of that is to do with moving playground equipment and whatnot, and we've been waiting for the site to settle. There's been a fair bit of settling on that site. The Roundhouse Park development, it's on hold right now, but we're looking at in October to get that back on track again and having a public meeting with regards to proposed design. The East Roley Landfill, Old Roadway Restoration and AT Pathway, the professional services are in place right now, and we're working on design and tender, and we're hoping to post that late in September and award in October. And we'll see if we can get as much done as we can possibly this year. But that one we did receive AT funding from the province. And Parkman Trail Development, that's been awarded, and we just received the watercourse permit yesterday, so that work will be starting very soon and should only take about a month to complete. The Terry Fox pathway, Terry Fox Drive to Brighton Road, we did not receive the AT funding. It is on provincial land, but we are planning on doing a survey of this where that would go, because there's also a fiber op line that goes there, so we're getting that survey done and then going to reapproach the province to see if there's any funding available to do that. What we have set aside would not even come close to finishing it.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that, Frank?
With regards to the,
What project is it?
so the shortcut pathway, the one that's from Terry Fox Drive to Brighton Road.
Okay.
So it is, like, that is provincial land there, so we had requested partnership funding from the province. They didn't they didn't put forward the money or didn't approve it. But we are looking at surveying where the pathway is going to be going, and it's where the fiber op line has been located as well, and then reapproach them and see if they'll come up with funding. What we have set aside, $40,000, would not come close to completing this work. So, where's the other one here? Okay, Parks and Open Space Master Plan. That's to be determined right now. We're leaving it till late in the fall to things slow down a bit, and it'll be sort of a late fall, winter going out with that. Where are we at here now? Portable outdoor rink, the landscaping has been completed, and it's the sod is taken. It's looking good down there, so that'll be ready for the install of our outdoor rink this fall, and hopefully it'll be installed by mid-December and be up and going for our winter months. It was a great success last year. Building and clubhouse, there was some roof replacements have to happen there. We've received the quotes, and I think we're just waiting to see when those contractors can get that work underway. The sport field complex development is on hold right now, as you're aware, trying to access land. Waterfront access beach development, that's on hold as well, waiting for Water Street to what occurs down there. Centerfield light replacement, it's been awarded. The lights are ordered. They had to do the specs for them, the detail specs, so they're ordered and anticipated to be here by early October, and that work will take place in October. Victoria Park Reforestation Project, invasive species have been removed, the plantings have been completed, and right now monitoring's underway. And I don't know if you've been down to the park, but it looks quite different than what it used to. There is still some tree debris that will need to be removed, but McPhail Woods have done a great job on that project. And the Victoria Park tennis courts right now has been, we've sort of put it on hold right now. We are looking at working on the design and tender documents this fall and putting it out in January, February, and it'll be a carryover project for next year. The tennis courts is such a short season of when you could even do the work, and a short season of when they're being utilized, and the disruption we felt like was going to be too too much into the tennis users and whatnot. And we were also waiting to hear back on a potential funding, and I don't know whether we heard back on that or not. No, so we're still waiting to hear for some potential $100,000 funding that we haven't heard back on yet. So we would look at doing the design work this year. The work needs to be done. So we do design all the engineering work and go out in January, and then have it awarded in March and get it started first thing. If it gets started earlier in the season, we feel that it can be done quicker. So
Yeah, and that project, what project is that?
the Victoria Park tennis courts restoration, there's cracks have been forming, especially it's the 5 courts where we're having the issue where there's cracks are forming. And we are looking at accessing funding from the National Bank. We're just waiting to hear on that. So that's with regards to money that put towards surfacing. That's a high-fly overview of all the projects. As you can see, there's quite a list, and we're making some good progress.
I certainly appreciate all the work the department's doing, Frank. The department is, many challenges, and I know that, all those projects you mentioned, our citizens are going to certainly welcome the opportunity when those projects are completed.
I realized with the small print there, I missed one of the projects that Christopher just brought my attention to, the Mulberry Park Outdoor Rink. It is our multi-sport facility.
Yep.
It is underway and progressing nicely, and I believe it's on schedule to be completed by the end of September.
Yeah,
So-
I was out to it a couple of times, and it's progressing very well. And I know the people in that community are very excited about having that facility being constructed there. Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Reason for me hitting my button was I didn't hear mention of Mulberry Park, so I could unpress my button. But I also want to echo, obviously, a lot of great work happening by the department. That was a very exhaustive list of great initiatives that are happening across the city, and obviously more to come. So thank you very much for all of the updates. And I did have a question about Mulberry and where it was on time and track for the winter months. I can say, I'm very familiar with that area. It's not my ward, but familiar with that area, and a lot of the residents there are really super excited about this facility. And they do ask me, is it going to be ready for the winter season? Of course, it might be ready, but whether or not the weather will permit and allow for it is another thing. But there is certainly a lot of interest and excitement about that facility in the Mulberry-Sherwood area. So again, thank you very much for that update. I didn't hear it on the list, that's why.
Mr. Chair, could I just follow up on the Winslow multi-venue facility? Is that our 100%? That is with the Winslow Lions Club?
It's the Winslow Lions Club's at the lead in that.
Kudos to them.
Yeah, and they have been in touch with us. We have been in communication with them, and we're looking at a potential partnership.
No joint funding from the city, it's all their, wow.
The club and the province contributed funding to, my understanding is, but we're looking at partnering with them and how this facility can become part of one of the city's rinks that we assist them with, kind of thing, and we'll promote. So we're looking at assisting how we can assist them with.
Oh, so we cannot, Mr. Chair, so we cannot put that as part of our planning and setting aside times for users? It'll be up to them, Winslow?
It's their facility, but we're going to partner. We're looking at partnering with them to assist them with operations to get the arena up and get their outdoor facility up and going. But they will be scheduled. It's mainly the winter operations part that they would like some assistance with. So
Could I just finish?
Yeah.
Sir. So, Mr. Chair, again, as you know, the councillor from Ward 3 brought it up at a council meeting about the pathway that connects Brighton Road to Terry Fox Drive. He brought that up because he's getting lots of concerns. Also, the minister that represents the area has asked him about what's the status is. Frank, if I look at the budget, the capital budget, we budgeted 80,000. You said 40.
yeah, so it's 40. It's a 50-50 cost share. So the province didn't contribute their 50%. It didn't get approved under the AT fund.
Oh,
So-
I thought our 80 would be, I didn't know that it included the provincial share under the ATP under, I thought that would be our cost to the city. So you're saying that 80,000 is 40/40?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it much better. So we have a $36 million capital budget for our Parks Recreation Department.
Correct. That would be, yeah.
This, and Mr. Chair, you can identify with this issue. This ATP has been asked for since I arrived, 218, 219. And we've been waiting for the ATP funding, right, for this pathway. I think we have to just cut bait and let's get this done. I think we have to look at where we want to go with it. And Frank, in terms of talking to the provincial government, the new manager of properties is Sharon Sluan-White. I've spoken to her. Yes, they do need a survey. I've been asking, Mr. Chair, as you know, I've been asking our installer for the fiber op to give us as-built drawings for all the install, but I guess we're going to use GIS. That's not good enough for the province. But speaking to Rodney Murray with WM&M, who is the general contractor of this fiber optic project, they will do the survey. So we don't have to do the survey. The contractor, the GC for the fiber op, they'll do the survey and provide it for us. But I want to make sure that this is on, we're going to get this done because Sharon understands, Sharon Sluanoff, so did Carol Croswell, who was the former manager of provincial property, said, look, let's get it done. Let's get it done now rather than wait another 4 years. So, Mr. Chair, again, we have a $36 million capital budget, 40,000 our share. We can find money in this capital budget to transfer over to this project. If we need 80, which would be both our contribution and the provincial contribution, 80,000, let's get it done. And hopefully we'll have some support for it. Mr. Chair?
Well, first of all, I think the manager pointed out, it's not our property.
No, we do not, Mr. Chair, we do not own the Confederation Trail. We take care of, no.
I understand that.
Yeah, because I was on council.
I understand that, but.
13 kilometers.
What I will ask is for our manager to follow up, to get a status report from the province.
Yeah.
And report back to us. That's what I'll ask, in terms of, where we're at in terms of that partnership and, a progress report.
Yeah. So Chair Twill and Your Worship, so what I'll be doing is, like I said, we're getting this survey done because that's been one of the outstanding items that they've wanted. And I know you're indicating I've been speaking with the water sewer manager, and so that is going to be done. I'm not sure who's doing it, but my understanding is it's not being done by actually the company. We're getting it done, providing to them. Then we'll be going to them and saying, okay, we have this done now. We have this funding set aside. If they're not willing to come up with funding, then I'll have to come back to the council and say, okay, the funding's not there. Do we want to proceed with this project? It's going to cost this amount. Then I'll come back. It's just the timeline will decide whether it can be done this year or it might end up being next spring. But we'll be bringing it back to it.
So, Mr. Chair, again, this is September, okay? So it's not going to be done this year. It's not going to be done. I know right now. There's just no timeline. And we're running out of time because of the construction season. So we know it's not this year. Yeah. I'm asking, Mr. Chair, especially for the councillor representing the area, Councillor Norman Beck of Ward 3, the MLA for the area that is asking, let's get it done because it is used every day, every week, every month. So it's been there. Let's get it done. And if I can just go on to one other area, Mr. Chair, talking about the Victoria Park Master Plan, this was brought to my attention a couple of times. We have that parking lot, I call it the west side parking lot. So when you come into Victoria Park, I believe we call it the Forby Kennedy Way to the west, to the east is the parking lot. Is there any plan to put what's the term, a permeable base down there? Because it is a complete mess after every rainy session or any rain days that we have. Like, can we make it look like it's used, Mr. Chair, not only when it's dry, but when it's wet? I don't know if you're getting the same concerns, but I get them all the time that, can't we not fix that up? Because, Frank, I think there's movement on the former site of the PEI hospital. I think Olney and the province has come to an agreement on the duty to consult. So there's another piece of property. As you know, we shook hands with the former Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Energy, Steve Myers, to transfer that land. So there's another piece of property that could be added to that master plan. But Frank, back to that east side, can we do anything to that east side parking lot off the Forby Kennedy Way?
So it is considered an overflow area, so it's kept natural. We do grade that every year. This year's been unique with all the rain we've been having, so it's been even more challenging. That the news with regards to the provincial land next, if that does get signed over, that is going to impact what we're doing with that property. As you'll know, the grade there is quite high, and we can't affect that where the water runs to. So there's some challenges with that spot, but if we're able to connect to that other property, there is some plans that we're looking at. How do we make an actual potential drive in, drive through, have some parking in some other locations as well. So, but anyway, it is, we are managing it the best we can right now. It is highly used, especially during ball tournaments and whatnot. But we'll look at it again and see if it needs a bit of regrading again.
Yeah, but there are permeable materials out there that you could put down there. There's concrete. I'm not saying to use asphalt, the byproduct or the leftovers from used asphalt or millings. I'm asking that we look at some product that could be used.
We have assessed option because of the way it's graded and where the water runs and everything. It wasn't seen as the best option for that location, and it was going to be extremely costly. There's some issue where the water drains in that location. There is no stormwater management along that side of the park, so there's some challenging. The water comes off the street into that area as well, behind the maintenance building. So it's just, there's a lot of challenges with the design of it. So we were waiting for that provincial land. If that does come over to the city, then we'll be moving forward on a long-term plan on how we address that whole area.
And Mr. Chair, this is the last point. So central field lighting, we're doing that, correct? And we're also doing Memorial Field lighting replacement. Is that, I thought that was part of going forward. It's just central field.
Memorial is new already. They were replaced.
They were replaced, well,
5 years ago.
so from Hurricane Fiona, there was no damage from?
One light fell down.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So just on that, the U19 Eastern Canadian Softball Championship was held out at Central Field. Okay, this is not a capital issue operationally. There was at a point, there was no toilet or washroom facilities because everything was backed up. Our staff, do we have staff on weekend duty that take care of those issues? Because the washrooms were closed and it was an overtime game of 3 or 4 innings. The only other facility was the Johnny on the Spot up on the other field. Do we have crews that are on site that are taking care of these issues?
We do have staff on duty, and I don't know if that issue's been brought to our attention, but we'll look into it.
Could you? Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There was a,
But yeah, it was only one. Yeah, but if you have 5 teams, there were 5.
what's the requirements, Christopher?
So we had the 2 washrooms in the announcer's booth area, and then we placed a porta potty over by the central 2 ball field so that people using that field wouldn't have to go to the other facility.
So that's 3.
So there was 3 porta potties that were placed there for that, or well, there was 1 porta potty, sorry, for that weekend, and then the facility had the 2 normal washrooms that were there. And there was some issues with the washrooms of backups in the line, which didn't attribute from the tournament, but could have been from other areas where things were backed up. So we had to bring in the water and sewer department to clean those lines out. And we also did have our regular park staff who were around cleaning garbage and doing washrooms, and they were aware of the tournament taking place. And the on-call staff person, if they received a call, would contact the park staff that were on duty, and they would come and take care of the washroom issues as fast as they could, depending on where they were in the city.
Okay, great. Thank you. Move on to our next item. Verbal overview of operational pilot project, install needle drop-off boxes in 2 parks. All right. Frank?
All right, I did a little overview here, but I'll have to go by memory. Forgot to bring it with me. So with regards to, we were approached by the harm reduction coordinator with the province, and this is back a while ago, and we've been in discussion with regards to putting in place community drop-off boxes, needle drop-off boxes, potentially at a couple locations and try them as a pilot. So I just wanted to make you aware that we are looking at trying 2 potential locations. We have 1 location selected right now, and we're looking at identifying another one. And it would just, what it's going to be, we know that there's needles are in parks, and we know staff are finding them. And in some parks, they're finding them at a high level. And we're feeling if we have this option there for them to actually dispose of them, they might actually use them and dispose them. They are being disposed in our garbage cans, which is not always optimal as well, especially if they don't have the cover on and whatnot. So we are going to be trying it at two potential locations. We've been working with Public Works as well, consulting with them on identifying where they are finding the most as well. And we'll be trying it and see how it works. And we'll be communicating with communications as well, providing them with the messaging to...
Well, thank you, Frank. Well, first and foremost, I don't know who the coordinator is for the harm reduction. Who? Sean Martin lives in Canoe Cove. Okay, so that's great. I guess my question is to Sean Martin. Who authorized the NGOs to distribute drug paraphernalia in the different neighborhoods and communities in this city? I've asked that question. I think I must have asked it by email. I've asked it publicly. I haven't got an answer. I'd like to know where they were given a license, where they were given a permit, and do they have insurance? Like, who authorized this unlimited amount of drug paraphernalia in this city? And why is it the responsibility of the city of Charlottetown, our staff, to every morning to pick up these needles? I think the responsibility should be put right back, or the onus put right back on the distributors, the NGOs that are distributing drug paraphernalia in our city. Like, it amazes me that this is taking place. These are policy decisions, public policy decisions that the city of Charlottetown, that I'm not aware of, is participating in these endeavors. And if we are, I'd like to know about it. So it annoys me to no end that this is taking place. It really does. So now it's our problem, and we have to agree to this. And what we're telling the community is we're putting up these boxes because we're condoning and we're kind of advertising this is what takes place in our parks. I'm just shocked at these developments. I'm just shocked and dismayed at these developments. I really am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to usurp Frank's role here, but as someone who sat at the table for the stakeholder engagement session that we had down the street, there was, at Jack Blanchard, there was a lot of conversation around short and long-term goals for how we move forward as a community. And one of the low-hanging fruit, if you will, from that conversation was that on a more immediate level, we can deal with the public safety piece around the fact that this paraphernalia, that the needles are getting just left everywhere. And I really don't think it serves us to pontificate as to how they get the drug paraphernalia, how they're disposing of it. The bottom line is we have to respond regardless for the sake of public safety. And so at that very session, the Parks and Recreation Department was asked to work with other stakeholders to determine if we can find somewhere in the city, just to try as a pilot project, locating these safe units where the needles can be, discarded needles can be put somewhere safely by the people that find them, people use them, whatever the case might be. When they're found, they're put in one of these boxes. And I was the one that asked the department head to do this based on actual real data as to where our staff are finding these discarded needles. And so the recommendation around this pilot project are for a couple of key locations where we know this is a problem right now. So that's what the recommendation to move forward with this are based on, is places where we are finding a lot of these discarded needles now, and see if we put a couple of these out there for the next few months, if it does in fact reduce the amount of irresponsible misuse of our property, it takes away from that at the end of the day, and reduces the public risk.
And just to further add to what Sue had said there, like you said, this is something we're trying. It is an operational thing. We're trying it. It's just like putting a garbage can in a location. This is a specialized type of garbage can. But the purpose of this project is to increase this, as Sue had mentioned, to increase the access to safe disposal and address the issue of discarded needles in public spaces like parks and like public right-of-way. So we're looking at where our real, and we know a couple real problem areas, so we're going to be trying it there. And this is ultimately at the end of this, promoting public safety, peace of mind, and public health. It's promoting that whole aspect of you'll come across a needle, and where do I put it? Who do I phone? That kind of thing. So this will provide another option. These are built for a purpose, these units, and they're tamper-proof. So once the needle goes in, or once the Sharpie goes in, you can't get access to it. So.
Mr. Mayor, go
Thank
ahead
you.
there.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess there's two sides to this coin, and I agree with Chair Tweel. I mean, the problem, just why are they even being there for starters? And, we're certainly looking at addressing that on a couple different fronts. But I think the other side of that coin is they are there, and we need that public safety aspect in there. I'm not quite sure about the expectations of potentially residents and stuff coming upon and seeing a needle and picking up and disposing of it in a safe manner will occur. I assume the expectation might be the users of those needles who are the ones that would dispose of those. Because we did talk about, if people see them, they could pick them up. I heard that language here. They would see them and pick them up and put them in there. I think in the interest of public safety and, the sheer fact that they are there, I agree that why are they there is another debate and question that I think needs to be addressed on many other levels. But the end result is they are there, and they are showing up in our parks. And I think, there's in the media just recently here, a young girl, picked up a needle and was pricked herself with that in one of the areas, Hillsmore Square, I think it was called. So certainly, I think if we have to put in measures in a short term here until we figure out what this long-term solution to this problem is, we need to have that public safety aspect there. So, I'm curious to see where these problematic areas that you're looking at are and how they'll be utilized, and hopefully provide some sense of safety in the community, and people will in fact use them to the degree of where they're not certainly being used now. They're just being discarded in the parks, in the pathways, and in the long grass, and so on and so forth. So, much work to be done on this, Councillor Tweel. I know that, and I understand where you're coming from and the whole aspect of how they're even getting into the park. But they are there, so we need to address that public safety aspect as well. So thank you for that.
Well,
Just to provide one clarification there, Councillor Tweel, so no, I don't recommend that the public be picking up needles or whatnot. I'm sorry, I meant if staff were there and they picked it up, they'd have a location to put it as well, if they have the proper training. Any staff that does pick up the needles have the proper training and whatnot. And of course, if someone's using the needles, that they would be able to dispose it at that location.
Mr. Chair, just as Councillor Matart said, and I think with the Director of Community Services, Sue Fraser, this is an epidemic. And the meeting that we held at Jack Blanchard Hall, thanks to our CAO, it was titled Safe Spaces for Everyone. The mayor's conversation on unhoused encampments. And I was at that table where it was discussed that a first step could be parks assisting with this needle recovery problem. If you go to any washroom, whether it's at a service station or restaurant, those containers are there. Like, we're not breaking new ground. It's already in place. It's now we're just taking it to our parks. And Frank, I salute you and the department for coming forward with this pilot project, because the sensitivity around this whole issue is raw. It's really raw, and it's like, I hate that saying, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. This is worse than that. And Mr. Chair, I can understand where we're all coming from on this issue, but Mr. Chair, the long term is, as I said to my son last night, who lives in Toronto, you think it's bad here? You go to the larger centers. It is, as my son said, it's out of control. And are there measures being taken to address it? Yes, short term. This is a short-term measure. The long-term measure is what you've said repeatedly. Where is the province? Where is the federal government on providing more mental health services, more addiction crisis services, detox centers? Where's the other levels of government when it comes to providing more fixed roof housing? We're short on housing, so why do we have people living on the streets? Last night I left this city hall about 10 o'clock, and in the back lot was an unhoused person setting up, that was already set up under the backup generator for the Ceridian building. So, guys, it's in our backyards. It's a crisis, but we have to deal with the short-term remedies. And again, kudos to the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Leisure. And I know, Mr. Chair, you're chairing this standing committee, but they are saying we have to do something. And I think our CAO and my brother and sister have said on King Square, the number of needles that are on the square now are down because there are other options being exercised. So the irony of this safe needle injection site, or the overdose prevention site, the irony is it is working. But is it encouraging drug use? I'm no expert, but I don't think we're looking at the heroin, we're not looking at cocaine, we're looking at the prescription opiates that are part of this epidemic. And, Mr. Chair, as you've said many times, we have to look at the long goal, and the long goal is more mental health services, more addiction crisis services, more detox, more counseling, and more fixed roof housing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, great.
Mr. Chair, listen, let's be respectful. Like,
I am respectful.
we want to make sure that we're
You know
all on the
what?
same.
I know, there's all kinds of drugs in the streets of this city, okay? It's not just opiums. It's crystal meth, it's fentanyl, it's all these drugs. They're all over the place. It's like candy on a shelf. Just look around and help yourself. So, anyway, I guess I'm always be candid with everyone. I would have, if you're looking to pilot a project, or if you're thinking along those lines, I would have preferred, that information coming to the committee first, right? All due respect, folks, it didn't happen. It's got to come here first. These are public policy decisions, right? Public policy decisions start with our staff, vented through the standing committee, and then from standing committee to council. What really annoys me to no end, it's, again, the onus is on the city of Charlottetown to do the cleanups, to be creative, and to do all these wonderful things. I'm concerned about the safety of our staff. I brought that up to council the other night. It just amazes me how we got to this state, and it amazes me how certain NGOs are distributing this drug paraphernalia. It's like just giving out lollipops. They're giving them out all over the place. I watched it. All over the place. And I still ask the question, where's the license? Where's the permit? Where's the insurance? On whose authorization is this happening? Do we run the city of Charlottetown, or does the provincial government run the city of Charlottetown? Somebody please tell me. I have to go to another commitment. You want to do it as a pilot project, but I'll tell you this much. If I still hear about needles in our parks, and I'm skeptical as to whether or not this is going to work, then we're going to have to take other measures. I really believe that, and I believe that strongly. And I can tell you, the community's not very happy with what's happening. So without further ado, you want to
Just-
try
Mr.
it, Frank?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just a point of order.
Yeah.
In terms of discussing the agenda, that's between the chair and the manager. So this is an open forum issue, so there's no way that this could have went into a closed session. This is an open meeting on this issue because it is a crisis that we're all suffering. Who does it end up being the responsibility? Go to Toronto, go to Montreal, go to Moncton, go to Amherst, Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I know.
It's a municipal responsibility in terms of the cleanup and ensuring that our parks, our streets, our everything that we do in this community is safe. So, Mr. Chair, I understand what you say, but like we have to be part of the short-term, medium-term, and the long-term solutions.
Yeah. No, I know.
And that's why when I appreciate that when you talk about there are other orders of government that are responsible for this, that's what we have to do. We have to keep pressing them on, as we were told, and just, I'll end with this. I asked about, okay, we got this temporary emergency shelter. Okay, so temporary means, it means 2, 3 years. What's the long-term goal? Well, we have, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm just
okay.
saying, there's a housing continuum. I want to make sure that housing continuum provides more long-term housing. That's where I'm going now.
I'm going
Thank you.
to, I'm going to end it on this note. Thank you for your, the points you're bringing up. Again, I have grave concerns about what's happening in our city. I have grave concerns, the old trickle-down effect, feds, province, city, and we're stuck with doing the dirty work, right? That annoys me to no end. So what I'm going to ask senior administration and management, what I want to know, right? I want a cost-benefit analysis, not cost-benefit. I want to know what the cost is for our staff every morning that has to go out and clean up all these needles, all the garbage, and everything else that's happening in our city. I want to tally what the bill is, and I want to send the bill down to the province. I mean, they're funding NGOs, they're doing all these wonderful things, and we're the ones that have to clean up the mess. And I don't know why we're not being proactive in that regard. Anyway, thank you, Frank. You're doing a great job. The staff are doing a wonderful job. I think we're making tremendous progress. And,
Move to adjourn.
Move for
Moved. Thank you, Mr. Chair.